Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casmon, and I'm excited to chat with you today. We're going to be doing a very special episode of the show. But before we jump into that, I want to hear from you all. All right. First and foremost, if you like this show and you're getting some great value for your investing goals, let us hear about it. Give us some honest feedback with a rating and review. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, listen, I had the pleasure of going back to my second home, right? I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but I spent a lot of my time in Chicago. My kids were born in Chicago. I started investing in Chicago. So it's a special place. It's my second home. And I had the chance to go back and speak at the Chicago Multifamily Club, which is an event and organization that I helped start. And I had some great conversations with investors. And I got some questions, and they kind of fell into a certain theme. So I want to jump into that theme and help you out today. So let's jump into it right after this quick little break. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. All right, listen, first and foremost, I'm excited to chat with you guys today. Really special episode. Wanted to do a solo episode, which we don't do very often, but, I'm thinking about doing more of these. And listen, I had some great conversations when I was out in Chicago. Had the chance to go back and to speak on how to scale a multifamily portfolio. And I got some great questions, great interaction from the crowd. And a lot of the questions fell into a very similar theme. So I want to give you guys some insights to help you along your own investing journey. Now, first of all, let me kind of rewind the clock back a little bit here. I launched the Chicago Multifamily Club, around 2015 or 16, and I did so with the help of a couple of other investors. Me, my wife, there's another couple, RJ and Nikki, and the 4 of us kind of got together to create this event. We had actually partnered with another investor, and we're helping her with the meetup, and eventually ended up breaking off onto our own to create something that was a little more suited to what we were trying to go and create. And the reason was this. At that time, I was going to a lot of meetups all over the city. I was going out to the suburbs. I was hiring babysitters to watch my kid. And I spent a lot of time trying to network, trying to connect with other investors, trying to learn how to scale and build a portfolio. And I often felt disappointed. I would go to these events and maybe you get a nugget or two that works for you, but I really wasn't getting the information I needed to scale a portfolio. So when you factor in the drive time, hiring a sitter, missing that time with my kid, the work I could have been doing and the other things that, I sacrificed to go out to these events, I just felt like the investment wasn't paying off. And after some long conversations, I realized the answer was to create my own. So that took some time. I ended up partnering with people, and like any other partnerships, sometimes partnerships work, sometimes they don't work out. But eventually we found what ended up becoming the Chicago Multifamily Club, and that really allowed me to connect with other investors. So for me to go back and speak at this event and this organization that has been running now for 9-10 years, it's incredible that, one, I left Chicago 7 years ago. So the team has kept that event going, but to come back home and just to see the growth, to see, a lot of investors were in the same situation I was in at that time. It was amazing to hear. So really, really grateful to have the chance to go back and speak to those investors. And many of them were starting out. They had bought maybe a house hack, maybe they had a couple of rental properties, maybe they were flipping a couple houses, but they were all trying to figure out how to get to the next level. How do I scale this? How do I create enough passive income where I can walk away from my W-2 job, or enough passive income to create financial freedom so I can keep my job knowing that I have money in the bank, I've got passive income coming in, and I'm set. So those are the themes that kind of kept coming up. And I think back and I reflect to my own journey, and there are four steps that were really, really critical that I want to share with you to help you on your own journey if you're looking to scale a multifamily portfolio. All right, let's jump into it. The first step is this: you have to get clarity. A lot of times when I talk to investors, they have these numbers in their head. They want 100 doors, they want 1,000 doors, they want $1 million property, they want to have $10 million, they want $10,000 in passive income monthly, they want $50,000 in passive income monthly. The question is, why? Where did this number come from? And is it a real number? Because a lot of times people just regurgitate goals that they've heard from other people. Why do you want 100 doors or 1,000 doors or $10,000 in passive income? Like, why do you want these things? You have to get the clarity. What are you solving for? It shouldn't be vanity metrics, and it's not a scoreboard just to compete with someone else to say, oh, I've got $100 million. Those things are fine and they play a role. I often tell people we've helped investors invest in over $150 million in real estate, but it's not for vanity purposes. It's just so people understand I actually know what I'm doing. I've done it. I've helped other people do this thing, right? It's to establish a little bit of credibility so I can move on to the more important things that we're trying to talk about. But it doesn't make me feel great, just to having a number. So don't fixate on the number. There are people who have billions of dollars in portfolio. There are people who have, less than $1 million in their portfolio. That is irrelevant. Focus on what you are trying to create. What is your why? And what are you trying to achieve? Are you looking to leave your W-2 job? Then what do you need to do that? Are you looking to create long-term passive income? Are you looking to build up your retirement account? Are you looking to pay for your child's college education or to have a second home, a beach home? What are you actually trying to achieve? Because you're going to need clarity on that goal, but also something to keep you motivated. This is not easy, and you're going to have to stay motivated and focused on that journey. A lot of people have goals to lose weight or to get fit or eat better. And what happens oftentimes is those goals just aren't big enough because they haven't put the pain to it, right? There's something Tony Robbins talks about all the time. But if you haven't associated the pain towards that goal, you're not going to be motivated. If you kind of want to lose weight, but if you don't lose weight, there's really no negative consequences. How motivated are you really? It's the same thing when it comes to investing. And for me, when I was in that situation, I was starting to grow my portfolio and I was learning and I was interested. But my pain point that I was trying to solve was the loss of my W-2 job. I worked at General Motors when we went through bankruptcy, and I watched what happened to a lot of people who had dedicated their career to a single employer or to a single industry. And they didn't have backup options. And at that time, you're talking 2008, 2009 in Detroit, automotive industry, completely in the tank. The city as a collective was in the tank. Not a lot of opportunity. You can imagine the level of depression and anxiety that people felt. And I was there every day in headquarters trying to navigate it. Now, I was fortunate because I was young in my career, very early in my career. So I didn't have the financial responsibilities as many of my peers. I didn't have a family to take care of. I didn't have a mortgage note. I didn't have any of these things. So for me, it was just, hey, I want to build this career. I want to do fun work. I want to grow my portfolio, right? But I realized I couldn't rely solely on a W-2 job, even at a big corporation, because it could be wiped away. And I watched that happen to many of my peers. So that was really my driving force. That was my why. That was my motivation. But however, it got to a point where it was almost manufactured because I actually never lost my job. I never missed a paycheck and things went great for me. Coming out of bankruptcy, I was able to have more responsibility. I was able to work with some amazing campaigns. I was recognized as one of the top advertising and marketing professionals in the country. So things went really well for me coming out of it, right? But I never forgot that feeling of the days when I watched people who were very gloomy and we were going through layoffs and everything that was transpiring. So it never left me, right? I stayed in that mode and I never forgot that. So when I moved to Chicago, I was very intentional to start investing. I knew I needed passive income. I knew I needed another source of income. So I wanted to start investing in real estate. So that's what I started to do. Okay. Started to invest first with a 2-unit, then with a 3-unit. And eventually I bought an 8-unit building. But the way I was able to do that was by connecting with other folks who are in this space. And that actually brings us to the insight number 2. Okay. Insight number 1 is get clarity on your goals, your why, your vision. Or goal number 2, I should say insight. Insight number 2 is to identify your who's, right? There's a great book called Who Not How. And in that, it says, instead of spending all your time trying to figure out how to do something, figure out who can help you do that. Who has already done it, or who can help you navigate that. Find your who's, not the how's. And in this case, it was all about relationships. I've been attending these meetups, and one meetup in particular was hosted by a woman named Bree Schmidt. Bree has become a really, really good friend of mine. But part of the reason we became really good friends is because Bree hosted this event every single month. I was, very serious about investing, so I would go to the event every single month. Most people do not. If you've ever attended a meetup, most people come 1, 2, maybe 3 months in a row, and that's it. Then they disappear for a couple months. They come back 1 or 2 more times after that, and then you probably never see them again. In my case, I made it a point to stay consistent. And maybe for about a year, maybe almost 2 years, I went to almost every single meetup. And as the host, she was at every single meetup. So because we were seeing each other every single week or every month, we got to talking more. And I remember talking to her about her portfolio, and she went from 3 units to 9 units to 90 units. And I remember distinctly when she told me she went from 9, she didn't say 9 to 90, but when I talked to her last, she was at 9 units. So the next time I asked her about her portfolio, which was, maybe 6 months later, maybe 9 months later, she was up to 90 units. And I remember just being floored because I'd never heard of someone scale a portfolio like that. And I asked her why. Well, no, first of all, I asked her to breakfast because I wanted to sit down and talk to her. And we went to breakfast. I fully expected her to tell me that she inherited some big sum of money. And that wasn't the case. She actually found some investors who partnered with her, and she was able to go and do these deals with these investors. Shortly after that conversation, I met the man who became my mentor. All right, met Joe Fairless. I was talking to him. We had lunch in Cincinnati, and he had raised $1 million for his first syndication deal. And he kind of talked me through the process at a high level and told me that he had a coaching program and he helped people learn how to do the same thing. And I reflected, talked to my wife. I thought it would be a great opportunity to help grow and scale. And in that moment, I made a decision. And this is going to bring me to point number 3 here. But I made a decision to do everything I could to try to make this work. Around that same time frame, the company that I was working for ended up going into bankruptcy. So everything I was fighting for just snapped right in front of my eyes. And the financial independence I was shooting for, the flexibility, everything, I just was witnessing it, scramble. Now, obviously, I could have, got another job, and there's a lot of things I could have done there. But I didn't want to spend my life updating my resume and chasing opportunities. It was really important for me to create more control over my financial future. And I had to do that through real estate. That was the only path that made sense to me. So in that moment when I made that decision, I invested, but I also put my chips in. And that meant recognizing my limitations, recognizing my abilities, but trusting someone else who had a proven process. So step 3, is to really identify a proven path that you can follow. You are not the first person trying to scale a multifamily portfolio. Why on earth would you just wing it and see what happens? There's a proven process that many people can show you. We've helped many people through our coaching program and our mastermind. There are other folks who have similar programs as well. Through our podcast, we actually talk to guests every week who go through a very similar journey. So there's a proven path that you can follow, and you can get people to help you along the way. You don't have to do this as a solo journey. You can be a part of a team. And in fact, that's one of the best ways to get started. The next deal I did in that case was to actually partner with another group of investors. These are actually other clients, coaching clients from my mentor that I met at a conference. And we sat down, got to know each other a little bit more. And as the time kind of moved on and a few months passed and we stayed in touch and we kept checking in with each other, We realized, you know what, we like talking to each other. We think there's some great rapport here. Let's see what it looks like on a deal. Well, they found a deal. They reached out to me and said, hey, we've got this deal. We talked through it, and I ended up partnering with them on a deal. This is 192 units in San Antonio, Texas. And that was my first syndication deal. Now, if you would have told me that I would be investing in doing these large syndication deals, I probably would have laughed at you because I didn't come from that world. Like I didn't come from big money. I didn't, come from family office or anything like that. I didn't have a construction background or a real estate background. I came from corporate America. I was a marketing guy. I did large advertising and marketing campaigns. I understood the ability and the power of real estate investing, but not to the extent of doing 100+ unit deals. But the important thing was this: I didn't rely on myself. I trusted the people around me. I built a team. I got a great mentor. I aligned myself with other operators, and I built those relationships, and that allowed me to grow and scale and to push outside of my comfort zone to do things that I certainly wouldn't have done without them. And that's the thing. If you want to scale, you have to step back and understand, what are you actually trying to do? You can't scale by yourself. You can't. There's just too many hours. Too many things to do, not enough hours in a day. You're going to drive yourself crazy. And it also comes back to your why. I've never met anyone who wanted to scale so they could work 20 hours a day or 16 hours a day. They just want to take on more responsibility. No, you usually want to scale so that you can make more money. You can have more free time. You can, step back and be a passive owner, whatever it is, right? But that's the reason most people want to scale. It's not to do more work. So in order to do that, you have to build a team. You've got to get people around you. You've got to have folks who understand the vision and can take your vision and go out and bring it to life. And that is the key here. It comes down to relationships and people, and you have to align yourself with the right people if you are willing and ready to scale. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. All right, so we've talked about, the first 3 things, right? You've got to have a clear vision of what are you trying to accomplish here? What's your why? What are you looking to accomplish for real? The second one is your key relationships. Who are you looking to tap into? Not what are you trying to do? So figuring out the relationships and the who's in your life. And then the third is following a proven process. I'm talking specifically to multifamily because that's my realm. But if you want to do hotels or even single families, find people who have scaled those portfolios so that you can learn from those individuals. And then the fourth insight I'll give you on scaling a business is you have to be resilient, all right? You have to have the ability to overcome challenges. This is not going to be easy. And the reality is most people, they retreat at the first sign of trouble. The first time you have a tenant who screws you over and doesn't pay the rent, you have to evict them and it costs you $10,000 to turn the unit. That's a lot. It could crush somebody. The first time a contractor screws you over, the first time you have a disagreement with your partners, these things happen, and they happen often, quite frankly, and it could scare most people from even getting started. But the truth of the matter is you have to be resilient. Said differently, the key for you is to learn how to be resourceful, not necessarily focus on your resources. You got to be resourceful. That goes back to the people around you. That goes back to being in a community or having a mentor. You want to be resourceful because we've all experienced this. I remember on my first syndication deal, I was raising some capital, and I got some questions that I couldn't even anticipate. One guy, we were buying this deal in Texas, and it's in San Antonio, as I mentioned. And at this time, this is when Trump was running for office, or I actually think he had just got elected in his first term. And one of the questions I got from the investor was, hey, there's been a lot of talk about strengthening the borders and immigration reform. I know Texas is seeing a lot of population growth. How much of that growth is coming from immigrants, and how might that be impacted if Trump's policies come into fruition? Man, I didn't know the answer to that question. That's a tough question, a great question, very insightful question. But that research was not readily available. Like no one had ran that report. So that was something I had to dig into and come back and answer the question as thoroughly as I could. But that was a great question. Not something that I was prepared to answer when I got the question, but did enough research to be able to properly give a fair answer and hopefully address the concern from that investor. You're going to have other stuff that happens though, right? I had a contractor that we were working with on a property, a 28-unit building. And I recall being at an event and I got a call from the roofer. And the roofer said he was pissed. He was not happy. And he called me and he said he confirmed my identity. And the moment he did, he said, well, listen here, John, if I don't have my $25,000 by Monday, I'm putting a lien on your property. And, and he gave me some more choice words there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? First of all, I've paid the contractor. You should have already been paid. Now, I paid the contractor the previous week. So he and I chat a little bit more. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now, I've already paid the contractor. His roofer said he didn't get paid. The contractor's already told me he's paid the roofer. So then I called the contractor. He's like, no, that guy's mistaken. No, we wrote the check to him. And the way he said it, I knew something was off. And sure enough, that Monday came and I'm talking to the roofer and we just got down to the bottom of it. And the fact is, this guy did not pay the roofer. He pocketed and stole the money and ran off, right? And it ended up becoming an issue. We had to, get legal involved and cops, he got arrested. It was a whole ordeal, right? And I say that because, again, these kind of stories are not meant to scare you, but it comes down to being both resourceful, but also resilient. Because a lot of people would have something like that happen and would disappear, would say, you know what, this ain't for me. I've had other worse stories, which I'm not going to get into, but the point here is you have to be able to move past this. I had a great conversation with Joe Fairless actually at the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit. So the last time we hosted it, I had him as a special guest. And one of the most insightful things I've heard from anyone, he was the owner of that property I mentioned before. He was having a really, really rough time with with life, but specifically that day where he had a rough experience. He had water in some of the units. He was, actually living in the model unit and he was struggling, man, to make it work. And he tells this phenomenal story, but he ended up going under contract to buy another property. And I asked him, well, what gave you the confidence to do that when this first deal wasn't working? Because I think most people say, hey, that little voice in the back of your brain starts to kick in and you're like, all right, well, maybe this isn't your thing, or maybe you're not a great investor, or maybe you need more, whatever. And he said, well, I made sure I was focused on my goals, right? And as I thought about my goals, I also reflected on my skills and my abilities and maybe where I had some shortcomings. And I realized there are some key relationships that I could tap into. So the next deal I did, it wasn't a deal that I did by myself. I partnered with an operator who had more experience, who had a pretty good track record. And I leaned on their experience and I focused on my area of expertise, which was more building relationships and working with investors. And the reality is, I asked myself, what would a billionaire real estate investor do? And I thought that was so insightful because if you think about what a billionaire real estate investor do, if you have a bad deal, you don't walk away and just say, okay, well, I guess real estate sucks. I'm not doing this. No, a billionaire real estate investor is going to look at it and say, this deal did not work. Let's learn from it. Was it the market? Was it the team? Did we miss something in our analysis? Was there a shift in the economy? They're going to identify why that deal didn't work. adjust their process moving forward, and go hunt for the next deal. But most of us don't do that. Most of us ladder this up to a much larger issue where it's real estate doesn't work, or flipping doesn't work, or multifamily doesn't work, or we internalize it and think it's you, it's me. I'm not a good investor. I'm not good at operations. I'm not good at analyzing deals. I'm not good at raising capital. And the truth of the matter is, it's not you. You just don't have the right process. You just don't have the right team. You just don't have enough experience. And that's why it's so important to follow those 4 steps I laid out, right? 1, get clarity. Because with clarity, the solutions become way easier to see. If you know where you're going, now you can start to identify the routes to get there. Then 2, build the right team, right? Who are the key relationships you have? Who, not how. Figure those out. 3, follow a proven process. Going back to step 1, if you're clear on where you're trying to go, now you can follow a proven process to get there. And then 4th, you got to be ready for the tough days, okay? That resiliency, the resourcefulness, you have to recognize that there's going to be bumps along the road, but that doesn't mean you quit the game. Stay focused and you will be able to scale a portfolio. So with that said, for me, I definitely have gone through those challenges. I think the biggest thing is always surrounding yourself with the right people, because people energize you and they're going to give you insights to things that maybe you miss. Maybe you're just too close to it and you're creating problems that don't really exist in reality. So find the right people. And if we can help you with that, love to hear from you. We got a couple of options, obviously investing wise. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com. There's a list or button in the upper right corner to join our investor list. Would love to have you there so you can access deals and opportunities that we're working on. But also from a coaching standpoint, we've got our mastermind. Reach out on the website. We're happy to give you more information and get you connected to the community that we're building. Listen, if this was valuable, you got some great insights, let us hear about it. Would love to get a rating and review. More importantly, share this with someone else who you think needs to hear this story, all right? Listen, I had a great time in Chicago. It's always great talking to you guys. See you again next time.